In this video, I'd like to introduce you to two of the tools we have down here in the metal shop for cold work with steel and metal. And that is the English wheel and the shrinker stretcher. Now, let's start with the English wheel. The English wheel, basically its function is to cup a piece of steel, to put a three-dimensional curve on a piece of plate steel or copper or whatever you want to put in it. It's not plugged in any way. There's no on switch. Basically, it just has this very heavy wheel on top and then a slightly smaller wheel on the bottom. This wheel you can change out. You can spin the handle down here at the bottom. It will drop the wheel down, and then you can add in, there are a series of different wheels. And the difference with these wheels is they go from being relatively flat to being much more curved. The one in here, I think, is the one that has the biggest curve. And that has to do with how quickly you want to put a curve on a piece of steel. This is a very simple machine to use. There's not much to it. Basically, what you do is you tighten up this wheel until you can just fit the material between the two wheels without it getting stuck, but you want it to be snug, and then you just roll it back and forth and all around, and it stretches out metal into a bowl. Let me show you what I mean. So there's no blade on this machine. You can't cut yourself. The biggest danger in using this machine would be in accidentally rolling your fingers between the wheel while you're working, which would be fairly easy to do. So you want to make sure that you have a big enough workpiece. I tend to wear gloves when I do this, not only because I don't want to smash my finger, but also because the metal can be sharp. Now, this is a circle that I cut out in the plasma cutter video. And I've cleaned up the edges a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and put this through. Now, right now, it doesn't even touch, so I need to tighten this up a little bit. And I'm going to do that by turning the spindle on the bottom here until it comes up to touch. Okay, now I can roll it through there, but it's not going to do much unless I tighten it just a little bit more. You want a little resistance. So now I've got a little resistance, but I can get it between the two wheels. And now I'm going to start moving this back and forth, and we'll see how it's cut. So right now you can see that this is very flat. Now, if I only did this one direction, it would curve it like this. If I want to bowl, I have to keep rotating it around. So that's about 5 minutes worth of work, and you can maybe see in the video here that I'm starting to get this bowl shape, especially in the center. Now that's because I've mostly been passing the wheel all the way over. If I wanted to get more of a lip, then what I would do is concentrate on the edges. And oftentimes when people use these, they take a piece of chalk and they make marks where they want to concentrate the English wheel to change the shape. Over here next to the drill press that's meant for metal, we have another device similar to the English wheel that's meant for cold work with steel and other metal, and that's called the shrinker stretcher. Now, you'll notice on this contraption that it has a foot pedal. That's how you make it work. The idea is you put something in the jaws of the shrinker stretcher, and then you push on the foot pedal, and it either shrinks it or stretches it, depending on which head you have inserted into the machine. If you want to change the head out, all you need to do is grab an Allen wrench, and I can help you do that the first time. It's very simple, and they're clearly labeled shrinker and stretcher. me show you how it works real quick. This machine has a 16 gauge maximum capacity, and there is a thickness gauge hanging right on the main support of the machine here on a little magnetic hook. So please check your steel for thickness before you start using this. Now, right now we have the shrinker jaws in here. So what that means is when you push down on the foot pedal, these two little pieces of steel inside there come together and they shrink one side of the metal. So I'm going to demonstrate. Here's a piece that I've used in demonstrations before, and you can see what's happening there. Here is a piece of flashing that I bent into a 90-degree profile in my demonstration of the brake shear slip roll machine. And I'm going to run this through the shrinker a few times and show you what happens to it. So it's nice and straight right now. I'm going to start using the foot pedal, and every time I'm going to move it a little bit. Now, since this is so thin, it's starting to crinkle it a little bit, but you can see the curve that I'm already starting to get on this piece of metal. Now, if I put the stretcher in it, it would curve it the other direction. So you can imagine how handy this tool can be. Both the English wheel and the shrinker stretcher require an accumulated effort. You have to work a little bit at a time and pay attention to what you're doing to get the results that you want. My recommendation is, with anything in the shop, utilize some scrap pieces and test it out. See if it does what you want it to do before you go working on some finer materials that you purchased for a project.